Call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Kolpak? Here. Pepcorn?
Here.
Strand?
Here.
Turnberg? Here. Mahoney?
Here. The North Dakota Job Service staff is offering free on-site walk-in services at the main library on October 15th from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. No registration is required, and services will include job-seeking assistance, veteran services, information on training programs, resume building assistance, limited unemployment insurance assistance, and migrant and seasonal farm worker services. Teens are also invited to register to make their own spooky felt creations on October 29th at the main library. Pre-registration is required. Planning. The apartment vacancy in Fargo has declined slightly over the last year, decreasing to 6.38 in June, down from 6.82 in March, and 6.97 in December of 23. An estimated 520 new apartments have been opened in 2024, so the decline in vacancy rate indicates the new units have been absorbed into the market. The new apartment openings have averaged 700 a year over the last 5 years, with 924 openings in 2023. There are about 1,149 apartment units under construction, and construction of new apartments has slowed, with 929 units permitted in 2023, but only 346 permitted in the first 9 months of 2024. Today, October 14th, is Indigenous Peoples Day. In 2015, the city of Fargo passed a resolution recognizing the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day. It's a day that's to enhance understanding and promote harmony through the recognition of Indigenous peoples' culture and contributions. There were many events today. They had a breakfast Commissioner Strand and I were at, in which the Gladys Ray Award was given to Gretchen Dobrovich. It was a nice time in which people got together, shared stories, food, and the drums were there as well. We hope all will take a chance to engage, learn, and reflect today and moving forward to foster a deeper understanding of Indigenous histories, cultures, and contributions to our communities. On October 12th, City Hall was prominently featured in Today's Show Worldwide on NBC. Fargo City Hall's light showing honoring those impacted by metastatic breast cancer was shown throughout the segment, honoring those brave women and their families. What an honor for us and a testimony to the investment our City Hall technology allows those special souls to be happening in our building. What a great way to talk about breast cancer, too. On October 5th, perhaps Pipcorn will remember this, the University of North Dakota Fighting Hawks traveled to the city of Farmore to take on the mighty Bison. Not surprising, the Bison emerged victorious in a strong fashion. Tonight, we want to show you a video that shows all the work that occurs behind the scenes by city staff members to make Game Day Fargo possible. The only thing I forgot was the final score, but that's pretty good otherwise. Is there a motion to approve the order of agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the September 30th, 2024 regular meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 37?
I so move.
Is there a
Second.
second? Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Colpack? Aye. Strand?
Yes.
Turnberg? Aye. Mahoney?
Aye. Tom Knocklis will show us construction update, please.
Well, good evening. Here to provide the monthly update of the engineering department's construction projects. Starting with safety incidents, there have not been any reported injuries or accidents related to any of our projects that we've been made aware of. Always can find more information. We are regularly updating fargostreets.com and then also some of the social media sites like Facebook and X. I had previously shown this list. This is just a list of the number of completed projects. I won't go through it this time. Again, this page is more of the completed projects that I presented on last time. But you can see we have a growing number of completed projects. So 32nd Avenue, roadway widening, NP Avenue, 1st Street, 7th Street, 9th Street. All those are kind of street reconstruction or capacity improvement projects. But then also some new development projects like 45th Street North between 19th and 32nd Avenue. Another new development project in Veterans Industrial Park. We are now complete with our asphalt mill and overlay projects throughout the city. An alley paving project has been completed. Lift station project on lift stations 4748, and then the University Drive South flood wall. Here's some images from some of those projects I just mentioned. Here's 32nd Avenue looking west towards 45th Street. NP Avenue, there's an image of the portion on NP and then also an image of the portion on 8th Street. This is a project, it was just a street reconstruction project, no utility replacement on 19th Avenue South and 39th Street. Here you can see an asphalt rolling the intermediate layer of asphalt. They have not yet put the wear course on in this image, but they have since done that and restored boulevards and seeded. Image of 7th Street North. This was a street reconstruction project. You can see here that all the asphalt is in, the boulevards have been graded and seeded, and as with many of these projects that I failed to mention, there are some minor punch list items remaining. This is 45th Street North, looking north towards Riley's Acres. This was a new shared use path project near the water reclamation facility, the Bison Village shared use path. And so those were our highlight of some of the completed projects. Now discuss some of the ongoing projects. We still are working, contractor is still working in Woodcrest Drive North. Phase 1 has been complete for some time. Phase 2, the asphalt pavement is in. They're just working on installing driveways and sidewalks. In Phase 3, the underground is complete, and they'll be working on curb and gutter yet this week. So here's the image of what that looks like in Phase 3 prior to the curb and gutter installation. And then this is up in Phase 2 where the contractor is installing sidewalks and driveways. Number of kind of smaller distributed throughout the city projects. So citywide traffic signal maintenance project, pavement marking replacement project, and then we have some drainage repairs, one near Briarwood, and then another that's citywide that's still ongoing. We also have some new development projects that are still going on. Selkirk Second Edition near the new fire station. The underground is complete. They'll be working on curb and gutter yet this week. And the Dakota Commerce Center North, a lot of work is going on up there. This is a project just north of Amazon. I believe there's 3 underground crews, a grading crew, and a concrete paving crew currently working up there. Here's a picture of one of our projects, flood risk management projects. This is Near 32nd Avenue, this is lift station 27. This image is just a portion of a levee that we're constructing near the YWCA facility there. But the contractor is also installing underground utilities and upgrading the stormwater outlet. And then next year, they'll be working on the lift station portion of this project. Still doing work up near Trollwood and lift stations 1157. The concrete structure for lift station 11 is complete, and then they're working on some interior components and outfall piping as part of that. We do just recently open bids for Dakota Commerce Center North Edition, and we are anticipating that the contractor will be starting this work here in the next week or two and try to get as much of that underground for sure done yet this year. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions by any of the commissioners? Thank you, Tom. Good report. Looks like you got a lot of work done. We're still a little ahead of public hearing, so I'd ask Jeremy Gordon to come up and present to us the final report on the Fargo Transportation Plan.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Double dose of engineers in the first 15 minutes, so the meeting's off to a good start, I'd say. So, Jeremy Gordon, Transportation Division Engineer here at the City of Fargo. In front of you, the item in front of you tonight is the final report of the Fargo Transportation Plan. It's been a long time coming, but we're here at the finish line and we're pretty proud of it. So I will say thanks to the Study Review Committee, the members of Planning, Engineering, Public Works, MetroCog, and the consultant team. So what's in this plan? It was provided to you, over 100 pages. The chapters are the foundations, which contains the vision and goals. We did a peer city review, which we've never done before. We have a chapter on safety, chapter on complete streets and street design guidelines, and then the final chapter is on innovative design. So really, what are we doing here? We're really putting together a guide or slash blueprint for how really we operate here in City Hall between planning, engineering, and public works. How we design, how we plan, how we construct, how we operate our transportation system in a context-sensitive manner throughout all parts of town, whether you're north or you're far south. It builds upon a bunch of robust planning efforts that we've completed over the years, aligning our community priorities. And then we continue to have emphasis on improved safety, access to active transportation, and sustainable and complete streets. So like I mentioned, the previous studies or reports that have been completed, there's 6 of them here shown. We kind of grabbed the good parts of each one of them and put it into this plan, I'd say. So Go 2030, we have the MetroCog long-range transportation plan that gets updated every 5 years, the Metro Ped and Bike Plan, Safe Routes to School Plan, the Riverfront Plan, and then finally our parking and access study that we completed with West Fargo. So really, what's our goal with this plan? Safety. Always want to improve safety. Always have to have an eye on safety. We want to be designing complete streets for all walks of life using that road or street. Access to opportunity, providing multimodal connections to jobs, services, education. Connectivity, we really want to get back to a grid-style city, not probably as compact as the older parts of town, but really a grid that you can get places in multiple ways. We want to look at innovation. You know, there's a lot of good things going on, a lot of good design going on around the country. We want to embrace that and bring some of it here. And then last, really looking at the dollar, the bottom line, is we want to be smart with what we build, and we want to right size it so it's not too big, not too small, so we can be able to maintain that in the long term. So like I mentioned, the peer city review, we looked at some other cities similar in our size in our area and then here outside of our area, Bismarck, Sioux Falls, Rochester, Des Moines, and Fort Collins. So we looked at them with fatality rates, walking and bike scores, the travel time to work, and then the means on how you get to work. So the first stat was the fatality rate, the total number of fatalities in a 4-year period, and then what the rate is per 100,000 residents. So we are in the middle there. Bismarck and Rochester are doing better than us, but we really want to get that number down as much as we can. And then the pedestrian fatality rate, we're doing, we still have some, but we're at the bottom of the list, which is a good sign. And the walk score, the walk and bike score, kind of look at how easy is it for you to walk around within a 5 to 10 mile walk to get what you need or what you want to get. We rank pretty high. The downtown area helped out, and our compact grid design helps out, in the older parts of town, north of 94. On the bike score, we're a hair, we're not as good as under our walk, but we're getting there. And again, that's really how easy is it to hop on your bike and go get something that you need. The mean travel time to work, 17.7 minutes, what they tell us. Used to be I used to think it was 15 minutes in town, and I think it's climbed to 20. But we're middle of the pack there. Bismarck's on the lower end there. And then how do we get to work? 73% come by car, and then add 7% on that. That's who carpools. We got 3% walked, 3% took a taxi, motorcycle, or other means. 15% worked from home, and 1% took a bicycle to work. So the next chapter was on safety. And really, we want to look at safety. We want a new way of looking at safety. There's 5 things, and Federal Highway is really taking the lead on this. And 2 of these things is really something that we directly are involved with, which would be safe speeds and safe roads. But if you think about this, we don't want anybody to die on our system. Death and serious injuries are unacceptable. We all make mistakes. We are vulnerable. There's responsibility shared among who's out there on the road. We want safety to be proactive. So really, if you think about it, safe road users, we're all humans. We need to be smart and doing our best, paying the most attention out when we're out there. Safe vehicles, I think the manufacturers, every year it seems like vehicles have new gadgets to keep you safer. Again, safe speeds, safe roads, and then post-crash care. We're really fortunate to have a level 1 trauma hospital in town here.
Mayor, might I ask a
Yeah,
question?
Mr. Strand.
Jeremy, as long as you're on that slide, if you could go back to safer speeds and safer roads, I'm just curious if there and when there are conversations about safety and speeds and slowing down traffics, if that's a desired outcome, what are the types of methods people use, like speed tables, and what are the bumps, and what are the types of things on your list of array of considerations for slowing traffic down or addressing the street design?
On the section line roads, that have 10, 20, 30,000 vehicles a day, it is really difficult to try to control that speed because you have to move quite a few vehicles in an efficient manner. It's the lesser streets that get more focused, the collector streets and even the local streets. That's where you can use speed tables or speed cushions on the local streets, where we do want vehicles going 20 to 25 miles an hour. And then the other things that aren't as noticeable is the use of roundabouts at intersections. If you think about a roundabout, you're never going to have a T-bone. It's always going to, if there is a crash, it's going to be a glancing blow that usually nobody gets hurt at. But for the section line roads that are multi-lane, unfortunately, enforcement is probably the number 1. From a design perspective, there's not a lot we can do.
Okay, thank you.
So thinking about safety moving forward, we are not a Vision Zero city with the North Dakota DOT, Department of Public Safety. We want to be one in the coming year, so I think we'll be back declaring us wanting to be a Vision Zero city. We also have a Safe Routes to School study that there's some implementation ideas around the schools in town. We do have our traffic calming policy. I think it's only been used once in town on 26th Avenue South. That could probably use an update. And then really looking at safety-centered approach in our design moving forward. So moving forward here, complete streets. Many of you may ask, what's a complete street? That's really an approach to how we design our streets that work for everybody that wants to use it. And it's a process, and it's citywide. It's not a specific design or a mandate for you need to do this on this road, or a goal to prioritize one mode over another. So really, it's an ongoing and comprehensive planning, design, construction operations aimed at improving safety, usability, and quality of life. And we want to program the right of way to fully integrate and balance the needs of all street users. So there's a lot going on this screen, but this is our street design context. We start at the first, whether you're in a new development or redevelopment, where are you in terms of land use and zoning? What are you building the road for? And you come up with your street type, and then you have each street out there has unique characteristics. Some need parking, some don't have parking. Some are near schools, some aren't. And then really you get to the final product, which is the street design. Another output of the plan here is if you look on the right side, we've retitled our streets in town. It used to be Local Street, Collector Street, Arterial Street. Now we've further defined those. So are you on a residential local street, or are you on an industrial commercial local street? I think it adds definition to our system, and I like where we're headed with this. And there's a lot going on in this chart too. Driveway access and spacing. The current land development code is pretty vague on where you provide access to people that are on block corners. This really just supplements what's currently going on in the LDC. And anything we're proposing here would get rolled into the new LDC that's going to hopefully be completed in the next 18 to 24 months. And I'm not going to expect you to look at all this stuff, but there's a lot of definition when somebody wants a driveway or an access to a collector street or an arterial street. There's a lot of factors that look into it. So I will say, it didn't make it, but in the newer parts of town, we want to have a systematic approach to how we grant streets and access to our roads. So I created this, I think 8 years ago, looking at what's worked and what hasn't worked around the city. I think we've changed the numbers a little bit, but I'm pretty happy with these two tables. And lastly is innovative design. It used to be four-legged intersection. We either put a stop sign or a signal. Now there's all kinds of innovative things out there. So these are just the ones in town here. The R-Cut is on top, 52nd Avenue South. So, it's pretty subtle, it's pretty nuanced, but the most dangerous crash on a side street to an arterial is somebody wanting to get off the side street, either going through or making a left. Well, in this design, they make a right and then they do a U-turn. Same thing with roundabouts. You avoid that T-bone crash and you go around the circle, so anything is a glancing blow. And then downtown, Main Avenue's on the bottom left. There used to be a 5-lane road with parking. We shrunk it down to 3 lanes with parking. Pretty proud of that finished product. And just looking at some of the interchanges in town, this is actually the approved design we're going to be building on County Road 20 and I-29 at some point in the future, if and when it gets funded. Currently, it's not funded. But 3 roundabouts. And these are some concepts down on 64th Avenue South and I-29. Again, none of these are final. These are just concepts, but we got 2 roundabouts, the diverging diamond. And then as I think we all travel around the countryside, the bottom left corner is something that they put together down in north of St. Paul off of 694. And then on the right side there, that's just a diverging diamond down in the desert in southwest Utah. So again, we're getting out of the 4-way stop traffic signal to something that's efficient and much safer. So with that, that concludes my presentation.
Any questions? Mr. Strand?
Go ahead.
Mr. Kolpak?
Sure. Just a comment and then a question, Jeremy. The first is I was pleased to see that walk score tied with Des Moines as the top 2 cities in the peer group cities, that we continue to focus on the importance of walkability. So that was good to see. My question is, as we launch into the work we're going to be doing with the Land Development Code following the growth plan release, how are we going to ensure that there's ongoing collaboration and transparency between this plan and that work, and good communication?
Really, much of what we have done with this plan will roll right into the LDC update.
Okay.
It's been a high priority for us to get this to a point where we're very comfortable with it. A lot of iterations with our consultant, but that will for sure happen.
Okay.
Mr.
Thanks, Aaron.
Strand.
Thank you. Jeremy, I'm just curious about crash analysis relative to speeds and designs of streets. Like, for example, on page 45, your report on crash analysis, it's 45th Street, 32nd Avenue between 42nd and University, University Drive, 25th to Main. Those are really high numbers compared to the other crash intersections you're reporting, substantially higher. And I guess my question is this, I think the way I interpret this, they're all what you would probably classify as principal arterials. And then as I see it, their speeds would typically range from 35 to 45. So here's my question. If we lowered the speed limit a little bit, do we effectively reduce crashes? Or how much of these crash analyses is speed?
I think intuitively, if we did lower the speed limit, it would help. But there's a certain point where people they're gonna feel comfortable driving whatever they feel driving. I don't think arbitrarily you can put a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on a 6-lane road. They're just gonna feel like driving faster. But to your point though, Tom and I have talked, and we get a high crash list from the state every year. And it's typically under that situation, it's just total crashes. So it's really the roads that have the most vehicles. Just that's where they end up being. But we want to look at all those high crash locations and really study them, and get an output for what we can physically go and improve. We're doing that. So we've got 2 intersections, the one up by the Fargo Dome, North University and 19th Avenue North. There's things out there geometrically that aren't in your favor. So we can make some small tweaks and have big results. So that intersection's a bad one, and then 45th Street and 23rd Avenue South is another one. We're going to be improving for 45th next year in North University and the year after that.
And if I might continue, Mayor, in those situations, I'm not really certain where we vary from 35 to 45 speed limits, but are there times we actually back off speed limits? And would you say predominantly on the principal arterials, it's on the higher end of the speed limits?
Well, we came here a couple times this past summer, and we lowered the speed limit down to 35 on 32nd Avenue and on 52nd Avenue. I think the only area in town that's 45 is South University leaving town. Yeah, we're open. I think West Fargo on all their section line roads, their maximum speed limit is 35 miles an hour. I'm comfortable with that speed on the section line roads.
All I know is if we see indicators of crashes and incidents I'd look at speed and I'd experiment on lowering speeds to see what results you might get.
No, I'm certainly open to that.
I'm not
I think moving forward, safety. We really want to do what we can to improve safety.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to approve the Fargo Transportation Plan?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? So we will work with the state on Project Zero to try to get our numbers down?
Yep, we'll talk. There's a person in charge of that state. We will become a Vision Zero city, hopefully early next year. And then, yeah, that really gets into the marketing and the public awareness of, things that you shouldn't be doing and things you should be paying attention. It's good stuff, but I look forward to it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kolpeck?
Aye.
Turnberg?
Aye.
Pepcorn? Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Public hearing 39, A special assessment list for the following approved districts. All have been approved by the Special Assessment Commission on 8/29/24, and we continue to the 9:30 regular meeting. Steve Sprague or Tom Knockbus to explain.
Yep, I'll briefly explain. As the mayor mentioned, this was continued from our last meeting. And the reason why is because there was a North Dakota Supreme Court ruling on September 17th, in which that required the Special Assessment Commission to determine the benefit in dollars independent of and without regard to the cost of the improvement district. So with that, we convened the Special Assessment Commission on October 3rd and October 8th. And in that meeting, the Special Assessment Commission, utilizing their independent judgment, estimated present and future benefit in dollars based on their the evidence that they had in their personal knowledge. And so they did provide a dollar value and benefit. And so then our staff took that information, verified that in fact the special assessment benefit for all the parcels within these 22 improvement districts, that the benefit is greater than the cost. And so with that, do have a motion on the screen that just acknowledges that the work that Special Assessment Commission did. One other thing I want to mention, there was a resident here last time, Mr. Nashheim, that had some concerns over the way in which we are breaking out some of the costs in our new development wear course projects. I had some email correspondence with Mr. Nashheim explaining our process. I believe he followed up with a few of the commissioners, but happy to answer any questions there too if commissioners have any.
So anyone present who wishes to speak to their special assessment? Is there anyone who wishes to speak? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? So just for the public to understand, the Supreme Court made a different decision, but you have to show that they benefit from whatever improvements we make.
Yep, independently. So not taking cost of improvements into consideration, our Special Assessment Commission had to put a dollar value, both the tangible and intangible dollar value to what improvement benefit is. And so they did that, and we took that dollar value, compared it against what was being special assessed, and found that the benefit did indeed exceed the cost being assessed.
And the second part of the question is, the City of Fargo does pay many parts of people's special assessment. Tom, can you just review that for the public to state what the city oftentimes picks up with our street tax?
Sure. Yep. So different types of projects have different funding associated with it, and that's all in our infrastructure funding policy, which is available on our website. But generally, what it says is new development is 100% special assessed to the benefiting properties, whereas reconstruction or rehabilitation is typically subsidized by the city. So like a mill and overlay is 50% city funded. We limit the cost of special assessments, say for a street reconstruction. So it varies by project type, but local projects are probably right around that 15% being special assessed currently and 85% being funded by the city.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kolpak?
Aye.
Turnberg?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 41, a recommendation to adopt resolution of the governing body of the application authorizing application with North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality for a loan under the Clean Water Act and Safe Drinking Water Act lead service line replacement. Troy Hall and Brenda Derrick to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I get to introduce this topic, so I am really excited to be here tonight to talk about the availability of some grant funding for the City of Fargo residents that have a lead service line. And so this really is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us, and so I'm happy to be here with Troy as he discusses the details.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Brenda. Yeah, this is really exciting. Like Brenda said, it really is. This is a one-time chance at such a large pool of funding in which we can help our citizens with lead service line replacement. So we'll walk through, see if I can get a pointer to work here. But yeah, so So with this, what I'm really hoping for tonight is the only goal is to get authorization to apply for the loan, and that would be the vehicle in which we can access the grant funding. So if we do get the loan, everything approved, we're under no obligation to take the grant funding or take any of the money. It's just to get the loan in place and secure the funding. But from a agenda, I am going to show one graph, just how we've been, just really high level, how we've been doing with the testing in Fargo over the past over 30 years. And then talk about the lead service line inventory. Let's see, lead service line inventory, and then the lead service line grant funding access, how we do that. And I thought it important because I'm going to show some data to show actually how we test the tap water for lead and how we do the sampling, just so you can understand the data kind of in context. And that's EPA, that protocol is EPA required. And then how we've been doing with the Fargo tap water, and then the water utility financial modeling and how we pay for the project, and then community benefits of a lead service line replacement program and recommended motion. And then I did want to show, this is a good schematic of how the water actually gets into the house. So right here we have, this is the water main, and this is, when we hear about lead service line, this is the service line that goes into the house. So that's really what we're talking about. The water, that's how it gets into the house from the water main, goes through a water meter and into in-home plumbing. So an important distinction in Fargo is what we call the public side and private side. So the public side is, that's up to the curb stop. So generally when we go through with a water main replacement project, we always replace that if it's lead with copper or other material. And then from the curb stop into the house, that's the private side. So that's really customer owned. And that's where the majority of lead service lines are in Fargo. So what really has happened is we've went through with water main replacement, and the customer, because it is an expense, and that's where this grant money can really help us out. They've left the lead service line in place because of the expense. So this is where we want to help out. So that kind of covers that. And then one other thing, really important for you to know, that the lead, it really doesn't come out of the water plant. What we do is try to keep the tap water very stable so it doesn't react. It's really a corrosion thing when it gets into the lead service line or in-home plumbing fixtures. So we try to send it out in condition where it doesn't corrode, but it's not coming out of the water plant. So this is a graphic of our over a 30-year history of sampling in Fargo. And on the x-axis, you look at, this is the years going back to our first sampling period, it was 1992. And then go all the way to last year. We're on our second time where we're on reduced monitoring now, but that all changes very soon. But oops, let me go back. So what EPA has is what's called an action level, and it's the 90th percentile sample. I'll try to explain what that is. So these dots right here on this graph are our 90th percent sample. So say like if we test 100 samples, to get 100 samples, which we've done several times in our period, what they'll do is they'll drop out the lowest 89 results and take the top 10 or the 90th percent result, and that becomes our dot that we look at here. So, and the EPA action level is 15 parts per billion. So if we had any of these dots at or above this 15 parts per million, that's when the state would really intervene and say, we got to do some things different.
Commissioner Strand has a question.
Yes, sir.
Troy, while you're right here, are these tests done on the public side or on the private side to test for lead? Are you?
Yeah. Go ahead. You.
If you give him just 1 minute, he has a
get to that.
slide
All right.
completely dedicated to that.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, we wanted to explain that because that's really important, how we collect that data. Because the EPA, they're trying to create like a worst case condition, so it is collected on the private side, but I'll get to that. But so this is the testing. Our last 4 years since we've turned on the membrane plant have been our best testing ever. So that's really a good sign in the right direction. But that just gives you a little bit of a history, and I'm going to explain the sampling in just a bit here. So as far as the lead service lines, the inventory and grant funding, so one thing, in our water system world is changing like nationwide this week. So October 16th, which is Wednesday, nationwide, the rules change for lead. So in tap water, so we're doing that. So one of the things we had to submit, we actually submitted it last week, because it was the lead service line inventory, and this was a big task to get where we're at. But we figure there's just under 2,300 lead service lines in Fargo. That could be private or public side. There's some unknowns, which we're going to use our metering project to look at all the service lines coming in to kind of figure out some of those unknowns. But that's the basis. So it is a really big number, but that's the basis of which we looking at this loan application. So if we kind of figure out what's needed to do a citywide project, it would be about $35 million is what I'm estimating we could do citywide. But then with the loan forgiveness at 66%, that's the grant part. That would be over $23 million in grant funding for the city of Fargo, which we could help residents. So and then with the service lines, this is a kind of a map, a tool we have to tell what our materials are. But on the private side, and this is where the grant can really help, if we do the 66%, that's federal and state, plus the water utility help out some, so we do a cost share, we can bring that down even further to the residents, and that's what we're looking at doing. So future topics, I will, and one thing I forgot on that initial slide, I will bring back to how the program will actually work, because we got to figure that out if we decide to go with this. And then with the rule changes, there's going to be, that are coming into effect in 2 days, there's going to be a lot of like public notification, public education, public outreach that we have to do. So you're probably going to get questions, so I thought I'd bring that back at a later time. So where does the funding come from? So there's what's called a bipartisan infrastructure law that was signed into law in November of 2021. And what that really did is it established there's a 5-year window in which this funding is available, is 2020 through to 2026. So in order to secure this funding, we probably have to act within this time window here. And really how they do it from the federal, they have the state administer all the loans and grant funding. We work with the state on that. But under this law, there's different buckets of money. We already have actually been successful in getting some of the grant funding for this. So about a year and a half ago, we got approved for a $4.8 million grant on a filter project we're doing in the water treatment plant. So that's where that came from. So that was really, really good news. And that's how I know we've had some items on PFAS or forever chemical, but that's our method in the future in our older plant of dealing with PFAS for that to become an issue. So so we've already gotten some of the funding there. But another major initiative under this bipartisan infrastructure law is lead service line replacement. And with what the state and federal are offering is 66% grant or loan forgiveness. So from an application and lead service line program, so the application, if approved tonight, we would pursue an application and try and get the grant secured, or the loan secured this fall. And then we'd start looking at how we do the program. The predominant cost is the actual construction of lead service line replacement for our citizens, plus some other things, the engineering to help us make sure we comply with federal requirements and other things too. We expect if we secure the funding, we'd have beyond 2026 to utilize it. So we'll probably have 5 to 7 years to actually do a program. So we probably, if we get something in place, we'd probably a little bit baby steps. We'd probably use 2025 to get some replaced and see how it's going, and then lessons learned and figure out how we move forward and go full bore at it in probably 2026 and beyond. Another thing that's required before we would get started is a lead service line replacement facility plan, and that's being currently done. That's fully paid by the state and federal. And I apologize, there's a super number of acronyms in this, so there's all kinds of, that's just the way it works, but just try to explain it as we go through. And any questions so far? Good? Okay. So how is tap water sampled for lead concentration? And what they've tried to do, they try to create a worst case condition. And one thing that's important to note, it's not, so here's the lead service line. It's not just the service line material that contributes lead, it's also home plumbing fixtures, so that can be that too. But what they do, they require is what's called a stagnant water condition. So and we have the residents actually collect these samples, but the water has to sit without any use for at least 6 hours, so that's typically overnight. And what that time allows to do is the water can heat up and react with plumbing materials to corrode metals from either the service line or plumbing fixtures. And then they take that first draw water, so that would be the highest concentration that a resident might be exposed to. We also do it in summertime at higher temperatures too, so that contributes to corrosion as well. And under this, it has to be collected by the homeowners. And what we've done is we actually send a letter how to collect the samples. We made a video of how to collect samples by proper procedures. But so we've done the 1992 to 23 sampling was that first draw, that first liter sample under these conditions. And then with that first liter of water, the home plumbing is small, so it kind of should capture a lot of the stuff even to the service line. So that's what's happened so far. In 2024 and beyond, that all changes, and maybe I'll go through that in a little bit here. But again, it points back to that 90th percent sample that determines whether the regulators intervene. So here's the same graph that I talked about, but so we've had different kind of sampling periods going all the way back to 1992, 92 to 2017. That was really the older 1997 plant. There were 600 samples collected. From when we started the new plant in about 2019, we started all over. The state made us start all over again. And that's what happened, like in the Flint case, it was a change in water source. That's what they can consider a new plant, a change in water source. It also happened in Washington, D.C. They had a Flint type of thing in Washington, D.C. as well. But so we did start all over in 2019, and we worked our way back into the reduced monitoring. So, and in 2019-23, it's statistically the best we've ever done. Again, the 90th percentile, this number right here, if we had any dots above that, that's when the state would intervene and make us work on our program. So just one slide on all the quality control monitoring. We have, for water quality stability, what we're really trying to do, we're trying to walk a kind of a tight wire to, we don't want the water to corrode fixtures in homes. We also don't want it to deposit in scale stuff too, so we're kind of a tight wire act in trying to do that. But pH is super important to us, what we call total alkalinity and acid resistance pH change. That's one of the things that Flint had trouble with. Phosphate addition, that was in Flint, they, as a cost-saving measure, they got rid of the corrosion inhibitor. So those are some of the things. But we do a lot of stuff to just make the water hopefully stable and not corrode our internal plumbing. in homes. But we also do about 100 samples, routine distribution samples monthly for chlorine residual and bacteria testing. That indicates stability in the system. We also have, required by the state and EPA, we have a whole program of water quality parameter monitoring. So Fargo, if we did get into a situation where they had concerns, they could come in and start analyzing, they had data to analyze. So, and then other things too. This is a picture of our control room here that just, we have a lot of trending and graphics we watch. Another thing that I think it's the operations, but it's also, this is something you've seen before, I'm not going to go through it, but the master planning and capital improvements, so we've done over 20 some years, that contributes to the tap water quality and stability in our system as well. In 2024, so now our world is changing here. So next year, they're going to change how we do collect the samples. So they'll collect a series of 5 samples, the first and fifth liter. So they'll collect a series of samples. And what they're trying to do is make sure we're capturing the water in the service line material. And they're going to take the worst sample. So it's all going to change on us. As of now, there used to be an action level. They're going to have a new trigger level, which is in effect in a couple days here, and then they make that the new action level in 2027. And I'll go into some of that maybe later at a future meeting. But then financial modeling, we're always really focused on rate containment. Grants are really beneficial. The low interest SRF loans are beneficial. We've actually done a lot of the master planning work. We do watch our total debt service what this is, the years, and then the total debt payment that the water utility has is the light green line. Inflation statistics are on the darker green line. But as we go through the years, like in 2010, our total debt service was a little over $6 million. Then we paid off the older 1997 plant, then the membrane plant picked up. We're funding reserves, it drops down again. So we really try to manage our debt payment as part of our rate structure. Oops. And then what's not included, because we're still working on, is Red River Valley Water Supply Project and some of the other stuff. But with regards to the lead service line, we would end up with about a $428,000 payment beginning whenever that's at full utilization of the grant, but that would begin in about 2030. But we're watching all that. I just want to make clear that we're modeling it and watching all that. So community benefits of a lead service line program, be lower the risk of lead exposure for future generations, potentially improve home competitiveness when selling. It would help the economy and bring construction work and grant dollars into the community. It'll improve Fargo water system. And then this is, like as Brenda said, probably a once in a lifetime chance of getting this level of funding to do lead service line replacement all throughout Fargo and really help out our citizens. So with that, here's the recommended motion that the mayor read, and then the loan application, 35 million, 66% loan forgiveness. That would be over about 23 million in grant funding. On the remaining 34% is 0.5% interest. That's not a misprint. It's 0.5% interest to make it attractive for us. And then with approval, there's no obligation to actually borrow. So I know that was pretty long-winded, but hopefully that.
Any questions, Commissioner? Commissioner Strand?
Thank you. I'm just curious, Troy, you have testing and you have all this data, but how do people know if they have lead in their system on the private side? Or do you know, or is there an assessment out there to kind of know where it already is, or?
Yeah. Well, that's, I think that's sort of what the data that I've showed indicates. What we do is we try, so we have about, like said, 2,300 known service lines. What we try to do is get volunteers to, so it's a sampling of what our residents it's residents collecting a sample and say like 100 homes, or on reduced monitoring, it's like 50 homes. We get volunteers to do the sampling. So it should be fairly representative as long as they follow, the sampling instructions of what people are, would be exposed to or in town. And again, the lead testing is pretty low, but I mean, we're in the water plant, we're not a certified lab for lead anymore, but it can be tested. We can give labs that could do it. But I think what I've showed you, that's probably fairly representative of how we're doing.
I think what John's asking, if you live in a house, can they just call the water department and bring a sample in to be checked?
Yeah, we're not a certified lab anymore, but we can give out names for certified where they could get it tested. And then, just a quick way, we're trying to create these worst case conditions for the sampling. A really easy way to lessen exposure would just be to run, like, say the winter warms up in the house, just run water till it's cool and just so it flushes out that first straw, and that probably helps you out. So
I'll ask it a little differently.
okay.
How do we make sure nobody falls through the cracks and everybody who could conceivably qualify has a chance to and actually gets into the system to get this upgrade?
So can I?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I think, tell me if this is answering the question. So the number of lead lines that we know are there, we know what address they're tied to. So we know they're there and we know the address they're tied to. And then through the meter replacement, those questionable ones, we're hoping to get affirmation of, is it lead, is it not? And so that's where we have a portion too that we don't know for sure, and those we're checking. So if anyone's wondering, they can call and we can let them know if we know for sure or if they have one of the questionable.
And I'll continue. If those people who just don't know this program's there, they don't know that they're maybe not on this issue.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about those people who will conceivably fall through the cracks.
Yeah, and I think if we actually move ahead with this, there's going to be so much outreach to citizens. And then the one thing that I didn't mention, because that's under the new rule, but we have to have like a public facing or a website that anyone can go and look at where are the lead service lines. So that will actually be in place very, very soon for the city of Fargo, where you can actually go look up. If I go back up, I'll just show you this. So we have this right here. This is a tool we have that we know we know what the service line materials are and everything, and we can look them up. So we have the different percentages, what's on the what's on the private side, what's on the utility side. But we're going to have a lot of information moving forward that's out there, outreach to let people know that the funding's available if we do that, and then how to access that, and they'll have tools to figure out lead service line materials. And again, we're trying to verify that through the meter project when we go
And
through.
just for the public to know, the yellow is copper on your
Yep.
slide here. Red is really the lead. So the lead is in our older parts of the community.
Yeah, yep.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Kopak.
a motion to approve the motion that was presented at the end of the deck, and then I have a comment after, hopefully it's seconded.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Kopak.
Yeah, I really want to commend the water treatment plant. Every good decision starts with data and with analysis and with former strategic thinking and planning, and that's why we are where we are, to be able to take advantage of this offer. Literally hit the ground running here, because we do know the inventory. We know the ones we don't know, and that's been through a collaborative effort, both public works, engineering, and water treatment, to get us to this point, so that we are really ahead of the game out of the gate. So I want to commend you for that work and that forethought. Thank you.
And on top of that, for any resident, they're only going to pay a third of the bill. They're going to city assess the loans and grants, so they really don't pay as much of the bill if they had to do it themselves. And just for that, Troy, if I had a reasonable, modest house, would I replace the line? How much does a project like that cost if I replace my water line?
We've been seeing probably different numbers. I've heard in different communities about, that's probably a couple of years ago, about $7,000. I've heard with some of the replacement on the private side of it, up to $14,000 or $15,000. But that's what we hope to do is do more of a bidding situation where we do a pool.
You
where
don't
we-
do it all in town. You do a certain amount, hope we get good bidding and get lower costs.
Yeah, try to manage that cost. Otherwise, it would kind of blow up our funding model. So we want to try our best to get a good price for our citizens.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Good work, excellent work. Roll call vote.
Kolpak. Aye. Strand.
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Turnberg.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Camping ordinance resolution implementation update. Brenda Derrick and Jen Powell, I think, is going to help.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Just a quick review, since the last time we met to have this ordinance reviewed and approved roughly 3 weeks ago or a month ago, September 9th. Our mobile outreach team averages 265 transports per month in the downtown areas. We're diverting roughly 81 dispatch calls by police and ambulance per month. With the HEART team, that's the Homeless Engagement Assistance and Response Team, and we're averaging roughly 1,090 engagements per month. And we have visited with 142 businesses since May. The Gladys Ray Shelter has served roughly 103 unique individuals, and unique individuals just means they're not double counted within the month of September, and seeing and serving overflow capacity throughout 2024. The Engagement Center has served 495 unique individuals in September, averaging 80 guests per day throughout 2024. To year to date, we have 19,602 total encounters at our engagement center. The camp engagement that we've moved into since we've moved forward with the ordinance and resolution, we have our outreach team, the downtown engagement center with staff, and the harm reduction leadership team. We have been reaching out to the camps even prior to the ordinance going into effect to make sure that they're aware of where they could be. We had the boards that we walked through the camps with, and then also at the engagement center are still posted. We reached out to the camps. When we're out there, we're also working on education on the ordinance, the camp expectations while they're there and allowed to camp in the specific areas. The connection to the community-based services that are offered, the sheltering prioritization forms and intakes are completed with staff. They are given a housing prioritization that is completed at the engagement center. Their basic needs are being supported, and there's street medicine within the clinic at the engagement center and other things that the HEART team maybe goes out with to provide to them.
So since the camping ordinance and resolution implementation began, we really began the implementation part the week of September 9th. So we're about 5 weeks into implementing the ordinance. Since the implementation, we have begun weekly camp outreach, compliance checks, outreach supported relocations, and cleanups have occurred. So where we start is we really started at downtown, under the bridges, and then we have shifted to the north and kind of worked our way back to downtown. And just towards the end of last week, we have done a walk down to about 40th Avenue and evaluated camps along that area. So to date, there have been no arrests or fines levied associated with the implementation of the ordinance. There have been, we figured PD's been doing a great job kind of monitoring the amount of staff time and the staff hours into the cleanup efforts. So we have Public Works, and we have PD, and we have harm reduction and outreach out there. And so, we have probably about 164 staff hours to date over those last 5 weeks for CAP cleanup. Again, we want to reiterate, we really encourage people, the public, to continue to report any homeless camps or unsheltered individuals onto our Fargo One app so that we can apply the appropriate outreach and then have it recorded in the system.
With our Housing First initiative, we proposed the camp engagement and the management strategy that was outlined previously, and here again is in for review. We want the camp management and the engagement with our staff and the people who are currently camping and unsheltered, working to connect them to the services and triaging their needs as best as we can to make sure that they are doing as well as they can given the circumstances. And then prioritization for the Housing First pilot and the diversion, with our goal to have a systematic reduction in homeless camps throughout the community. We've been meeting ever since the ordinance and even prior to the ordinance and resolution going through with potential ways in which to fund and continue to fund the initiative. We had monies carried over previously that are in the budget still and earmarked for funding towards Housing First. We have been working towards private and public ventures to manage the Housing First initiative, and that is to help support supplemental for the apartments and also for the staff, for the agencies that are helping with the care management, case management for people who would move into an apartment setting. That moves into the supportive services that we meet with, and that is a weekly meeting with other partners in the community that are joining in on this with Fargo Public Health and the city. We have presentation partners in housing. We have the Housing Authority that we've been meeting with on a weekly basis. And we'll continue to grow that list of providers. The United Way is also hosting and having conversations with us around this particular topic. We're working with master leasing partners and those people who actually do master leasing in the community, like the YWCA, the F5 project does a master leasing and Housing First initiative. Senca does master leasing, and then also our presentation partners in housing. And then we also met with rental agencies in the community who reserve apartments, a number of apartments for this particular initiative, at least Housing First priorities. So moving forward with getting traction on moving people into those particular apartments. Also working with downtown businesses who have interests in supporting our housing initiatives.
And that's all we have if you have any questions.
Any questions? Commissioner Strand.
Thank you. You know, this is really something to have 5 weeks of this unfolding, and some of our fears maybe haven't come to fruition yet as far as arrests and, you know, confrontations with law enforcement. That's commend you all for that achievement. It's something. A couple questions. How do we, it's October. What's our general plan for winter warming with the weather coming right around the corner?
Sure. We met just last week again to talk about that, and we do have funds available for that still as a carryover. We are looking at locations of where we want to do that. Of course, the deck was used last year for that. We're looking at other alternatives for that and engaging volunteerism. This is something that has been in part of our meetings and looking back at ministries who had provided these services in the churches prior and then had stopped doing so. I'm forgetting the year of which that had happened. And then that came into the engagement center instead of sheltering in churches. We would like to call upon the people who at least provided those volunteer hours in their church homes to join us in support of that effort in a different location.
And if I might continue, are there porta potties and garbage cans in the campsites or near them for people to use?
I don't know that answer.
Okay.
I know there's garbage cans for sure.
I'd recommend porta potties as soon as we're able to. I mean, even there was a letter to the editor recently that we provide porta potties for fishing sites. Why not do it for these people? But that's the last question I have, and I don't know if this is even on our radar. How does the community react to Churches United's challenge, and how does that affect Fargo, or does it affect us? Or I'm just curious. People are asking everywhere I turn what our plan is and how it impacts us and your services.
Well, I'd say we share your concern, and I think we'll have to see how everything unfolds and see where we end up.
Lastly, Bismarck's mirroring Fargo's policies, it would appear. Agree what you are implementing here has also largely been mirrored, I believe, in Burleigh County. So there's some merit to what you're doing locally, and it's a local model. What you've done is created it from scratch. So good work, everybody.
To answer your question on Churches United, John, there's a variety of people coming together trying to take up that action and work with it. And on the Minnesota side, there's a variety of different programs. So the whole team over there is looking at ways to keep that going forward. But they are having some financial difficulties, and I think they have laid off 20 to 30% of their staff. So they're truly looking at their problem. So we wish them well. So. Liaison Commissioner assignment updates, and since I'm with you, Commissioner Strand, I'll start with you.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Commissioner Kolpak.
Yep, I have one slide on Fargo Youth Initiative, who in fact started meeting when we started our meeting tonight to do some more planning around what I'm going to share that's coming up. On the next slide there, it's excited to announce Impact Fargo 2024, an all-day event for Fargo high schoolers to learn about how to make an impact on issues that affect youth in our community. It will happen Tuesday, October 29th from 9 to 4 at City Hall. And the website is the fargond.gov/impactfargo to find out more information. And also, like we do every year, the Fargo Youth Initiative, which is open to all Fargo High School students, will be accepting applications for new members through Friday, November 15th. Those are my updates.
Mayor, might I ask Commissioner Kolpak a question? I hear various jurisdictions do things like occasionally bring student leaders to the dais.
Yes.
And rotate them through. Is there anything like that potentially, or?
Go ahead.
Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
Commissioner Strand, yes, we've talked about how do we get the youth more involved in that's going to be part of the conversation we have on the board and commission work that we're going to be taking a look at, to how do we make it more systematic, that we can have youth representation in a number of issues. It is a very active group from year to year. They clearly are the busiest students that we have in our public schools, and then they take this on too. And so there's a lot of energy there that I think would really benefit the citizens of Fargo and city government and future engaged citizen participation by utilizing them more. So, thank you.
The chief will be in Boston next week or this week, and Zach Robinson is being considered for Officer of the Year, that event. So he's one of the top 10 in the nation. So I think we should congratulate him with efforts that he had here, and that the nation may recognize him. Mr. Turnberg.
No update.
Mr. Pipcorn. We will then go to resident comments. I have one virtual speaker. Olivia Fisher, are you on?
Yep, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Olivia, and I'm a Fargo resident. I'm addressing you all yet again today to express how deeply disturbing it is that you have refused to do anything for Palestine for over a year. They're currently dropping more bombs on Lebanon and sending in robotic explosives to murder Palestinians in Jabalia. How can you sit here month after month doing business as normal while multiple genocides are occurring? Your inaction is directly impacting Arab community members here, whether you choose to believe so or not. Last week, in the parking lot right outside of where you're sitting, I witnessed a man yell horribly racist comments at 3 young girls in hijab. He had seen our large group pass by and decided to park and wait until we came back just so that he could yell about wanting to, and I quote, mow down, end quote, all Arab people. I hate to even repeat his hateful rhetoric, but I need you to know that this is a direct result of Fargo leadership not taking a stand for Palestine and actively repressing the voices of those who are doing so. Back in May, when we were protesting downtown, I saw someone loudly yell from their apartment window that they support genocide, with a big grin on their face. I don't have the time today to fully dissect how someone could be so cruel, but again, these people feel safe supporting genocide and expressing Zionistic views because leaders in this city and this country have done nothing. While you continuously make excuses for why you simply will not do even the bare minimum for Palestine, our Palestinian community members are bearing the consequences. You may choose not to see it, but the rest of us do. Shame on you. If you truly care about public safety, are you going to continue to dismiss the fear that our Arab neighbors live in? What will it take for you to do something? Because your proclamation is now 8 months old and it has done nothing for this community nor those in Palestine. I'd love to know who exactly you are trying to appease by taking no real action over the last year, because I promise that the public perception of your inaction, along with your inner shame, will outlast whoever support you're trying to get right now. Free Palestine. Thank you.
We have no other speakers. We stand adjourned.